Hello everybody and welcome to this post-MRMW discussion. I'm delighted to be joined by Jens Cornelissen of the Milan Institute and Benno Hanlon of Visionslive.
Hi, pleased to be here. I'm the General Manager for the Milan Institute and North America and Europe, mainly responsible for developing the MRMW conference.
And I'm Benno Hanlon, and I was just seeing what Jack and Jens were doing together, and I was just really interested in, well, just hearing how it went, basically.
Just wondering about how you thought the MRMW conference went, what the key takeaways of it were, and yeah, just the key points really.
We've seen a lot of discussions coming from the event that have continued afterwards, which is a good sign for us. We also see a continued growth in the event over the last 3 years that we've been running it. So that shows us that we're on the right track overall for the event.
I really saw Twitter come alive, Jens, when I knew Jack was going down there. And then, like, as soon as the event started, it was just like so much stuff going on. It was really interesting. What was it like for you guys being there, you know, on the ground?
Great advantage this time around with some great keynote speakers that opened the conference. I think Janny Hoffmeyer caused quite a stir with the second keynote of the day, and that sort of kept the Twitter feed full for the next 2 days, with his claim that, you know, we'll be doing research without researchers. You know, having said that, I think he made a very valid point, and I think that's one of the messages that we want to get across at the conference, is that as researchers, you really need to look beyond research to sort of see where the developments are going, and we try to put together the conference program with that in mind, having people like the Federico Casaleni from the MIT, or Fabian Hemmert from the Research Design Labs, or of course the Google Glass demo with David Zachariah. Having those kind of speakers at the event obviously gives you a lot of opportunity for exchange, and those are the kind of topics that fill up the boards in our event after the Twitter feeds, and also get talked about in the blogs and the interviews that we see after the event.
That Janny Hoffmeyer presentation certainly got Twitter going, like you say, and it definitely gave me some content to go on in the interviews. People definitely seem to want to talk about that. Although another one that I think got people's interest was definitely Google Glass. Do you have any thoughts on that presentation?
I was watching David's hangout, and I thought it was really interesting, but I just thought it must have been quite foreign for him, because he was sort of like a computer science background, wasn't he? And he says in the interview, like, oh, I just do the computer science stuff, and I thought it must have been really intimidating for him to have been in a sort of, like, with so many professional, a lot of market research guys, very intelligent guys.
Well, you know, I think that was indeed the biggest challenge. You know, you're coming from a very different perspective, and we have a lot of briefings with our speakers before the event. We discussed the presentations, and one of the advices that we gave David and the team was, you know, you're not market research, don't pretend to be. Why you're there is to show market researchers what's out there that's a possible solution for the industry, or that's a possible exciting technology for the industry. And you know, we talked after the event, and we were joking. We would say maybe the first slide should have been a big disclaimer saying we are not market researchers, we're techies. But you know, these are the learnings. I mean, I think the guys are very brave in coming onto an event. You're in front of 200 people, and you're speaking about something where you only know 50% about it. But I think the big advantage, obviously, is something that Google Glass is the technology that everybody's curious about. I think there was always a big crowd of people around the exhibition stand wanting to try technology, and I think it's almost it's a start of a conversation for both sides. It's a start of a conversation for the Glassy guys to see what the industry wants out of this technology, and at the same time, I know a lot of agencies approach David to really, you know, get a hands on the technology, and also you know, discuss potential trials. So I think this is really where we feel our work coming to life. We want to build connections at the event. We want to build these kind of bridges, and now it's up to the individual parties to really take it from here.
I saw a tweet or someone, I hope I get this right, but that it was something like that technology is very, very clever, but we're asking sort of stupid questions. Or was it somebody tweeted that about how the technology has just gone forward to such an extent that people are catching up learning how to use it properly. Is that right? Did I get that right, Jens?
Yeah, I think it was Aaron Reed from Sentient Decision Science great presentation from Aaron and PepsiCo, and I think he kind of put it exactly right. He said we're at a point where if we're not switching on our brains when we're using technologies, we're losing 20 years of marketing research development. And I think that's a fair point to make, and I think it's one of the conclusions that I take away from the conference is just because the technology is out there, it doesn't mean that it improves everything. What technology does, it enables you to do different things or to do new things, but what everybody has to go away from and decide is what's for me, how does it work for me, how do I best combine methodology and technology to get the best result for me and my client. Technology per se is not the solution, and it will never be.
But it's like something Jack said to me once about how having a trowel doesn't make you a gardener. You know, like standing in the garden with a trowel doesn't make you a gardener, in the same way that you could have the Google Glasses, but it doesn't make you a market researcher. You've got to know how to use the tool, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know what? I was wearing it the first time 5 days ago, and I just kind of stood there staring into space going, this is odd. You know, if you're asking me to now come up with something revolutionary involving Google Glass, I'd struggle.
But I suppose Google Glass is the sexy thing, right? What else was there, Jens? What was the other stuff that you felt went well?
I think one presentation, which was the very first keynote of the day, Mick Kennedy, which I think actually was a brilliant presentation, but it wasn't very much talked about. I think that's because the topic, as you say, it's not that sexy. We talk about Femtocells, and I think the Vodafone technicians came up with another cell that has another cryptic name. Most of us don't even understand what these things are. But I think the message, and this is also one of the reasons I'm very happy to have Mick on there, is there is such a huge amount of data and such a diverse range of data that can be collected through mobile operators and mobile networks, be it near-field communication, or be it through through the network as a whole, and the constant connectivity between the device and the network. And I think it was a really eye-opening presentation. I think it's very interesting that you have a mobile operator really investing into that field and basically embracing market research or opening this up to market research. And you know, I kind of felt a little bit that what Mick was really talking about was maybe a little bit overrun by the amount of presentations or interesting presentations that we had on the first day. But I think it's a very interesting area, and I think he definitely opened up a great point of discussion there.
But how much of it do you know is going to be discussed, Jens? How much is a surprise? When
we strive to review all the decks before they come up on screen. We do test them, review them. We actually send them on to an advisory board if we're struggling with good advice. That doesn't mean that 90% of the speakers don't come back with an updated presentation 5 minutes before their conference, so there's always a little bit of an element of surprise. But we put together the program carefully. We talk to our speakers. We have advisors that work with us to make that's what's going out there is the quality that we want and also the content that we want. But there's always an element of surprise in there, which I guess keeps us on our toes.
Jens, I'd like to thank you very much for both coming on to this hangout and for facilitating the event itself. I was there. It was great. I felt it went really well.